Former Judge Michael Conahan's lawyers came out of the federal courthouse in Scranton after Conahan received his 17.5-year sentence. Philip Gelso left, and Arthur Donato Wright represented Conahan.
We have Mike Conahan is a good man. Today he did what he believed he had to do, which was start the healing process. He accepted responsibility for his actions. We are disappointed, bitterly disappointed with the judge's sentence, but we respect the judge's decision in this case. That's all I have. You want me to add?
So do you appeal the sentence?
Pardon me?
Talk about the grays of Mike Conahan's life.
I think there were grays of his life. There was a lot of good that he did, okay? And there was a lot of contradictions, I think, that we highlighted. We think that we think overall all of those things were considered. However, we think that they should have obviously received more weight than was given. Do you have anything to add to that? No.
Bill, what lessons did you learn from the way Mark Chivarella handled his prosecution?
Well, there's a stark contrast between Mark Chivarella and Mike Conahan. I mean, Mark Chivarella fought this tooth and nail. Mark Chivarella antagonized all of you, antagonized every child, every juvenile involved. Mike Conahan didn't do that. And it wasn't a lesson so much, it was the differences in personalities and persons. Mike Conahan realized that there was a problem. Mike Conahan realized that people needed to heal, and he took the appropriate action. He was quiet when Chivarella fought. And that was the point. I don't think it was a lesson so much, Mike. I think it was the fact that he understood and he realized that this community needed to heal, and he was going to facilitate that process.
And Mark Chivarella said it was not a kids for cash case. Was, in your client's mind, was it?
In my client's mind, this case was, excuse me, that's okay. This case was a lot of things, okay? And I believe, or Mike Conahan believes, that however you call it, whatever label you put upon this, there was a lot of damage that came from this case. And when you heard him today, he was sincere. He accepted responsibility for that. He expressed remorse for that. And what he did was he tried to get beyond it, everybody in this community get beyond it and start the healing process.
He had a childhood where he was dominated by his father, that he has maybe alcoholic tendencies. Are those things that really can be excusable? A lot of people come from that background and they don't go down these roads.
Well, if you heard what I said it excuses nothing, but it explains things, okay? And I think all of those factors definitely explain how we got from there to here. But the process doesn't end with those factors. The process ends from where you start in February of '09 and you come to today, and his transformation over these last 2 years, and that's important and significant. And I think it helps the community heal.
So do you think he knew anything about the violations of women's rights that were going on in Chivarella's courtroom?
I don't know if he knew or if he didn't know. I think what he did know is that his conduct now, what he realizes now, is that his conduct had widespread impact upon everyone, okay, in the community, lawyers, judges, everyone. And he accepted that today, and he apologized for it, and that's what's important, I believe. Well, the transition was incremental, but it happened. And it was dramatic in the fact that you see a man in 2009, you were all there, you saw him in 2009, you saw what happened when he pled guilty, and then you see a different man here today. You see someone who's contrite, who's remorseful, who reached out and basically said, I was corrupt. Didn't basically say it, said he was corrupt. And that's dramatic for someone of any caliber, especially for Mike Conahan. I expected a sentence of less than 17.5 years. I expected a sentence that would be dramatically less than that. We had asked for a sentence for less than that. And we had thought, when you consider all of those factors that you've been commenting on and you've been asking me questions about, a sentence less than that, those factors, those tiles in the mosaic warranted it.
Can you put a number on what you were, can you put a number on?
When you think about it, in 2009, everyone thought 87 months was an appropriate sentence without any acceptance of responsibility. So in 2011, with an agreement by the government that Mike Conahan did accept responsibility, which is the only thing that changed in those 2 years, except for the transformation that Phil's already talked to you about, we thought it was reasonable to expect a sentence of around that same number. And I think that makes sense.
What did the guideline do?
Well, the guideline range was 210 at the low range, which is what the judge did. He granted no variance, no departure.
What was the high range?
240.
What was his reaction? What was his reaction to it?
What was Mike's reaction?
Yes.
Well, Mike was obviously, he was upset, but he understood. I mean, he was upset by the fact that he's leaving his family for a long period of time. It was emotional.
Is there regret from him or from you guys that deal, that ACS deal fell apart, and he would be maybe 5 years away from getting out now?
I think there's obvious regret that deal fell apart. I think there's regret that the process that we went through over the past 2 years, he didn't go through 2 years before that 87-month deal blew apart. I think there's definitely that regret.
Have you had any contact with him after their deal fell apart?
I don't think so. If there was, it was minimal contact.
Okay.
So can you talk about whether he's cooperated with the government? They didn't ask for any questions.
I think what we said in court today was that when the government asked to meet with Mike Conahan, he agreed to meet with him. When the government asked him a question, he agreed to answer it. Whether that was significant enough in the apprehension and prosecution of others to justify a motion under the guidelines under Section 5K 1.1 is for the government to decide. But we can say that Mike certainly met with them whenever they wanted, answered every question they asked.
Why didn't he testify against Israel?
Well, you'd have to ask the government. I think what they will say is that they thought it was not going to help their case. I respectfully disagree with that. I think it would have helped their case.
But it was their decision not to call him?
It was their decision not to call him. He was prepared to testify if they wanted him to.